Okay, I'm going to start now. It's 6:30. Welcome tonight. I'm Laurie Muncy. I'm with the Old Colony Planning Council. I'm the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. A lot of my work is focused on hazard mitigation, housing, climate change, open space plans. So we do a lot of community things. Oh, I'm sorry, I had to let one more person in. I'll let her get situated before I start the presentation. Tonight is really just a kickoff meeting. I'm sorry? Tonight is a kickoff meeting for the housing production plan. Can you all hear me well? Maybe not.
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm messing with my screen here, trying to make it easier for you to see. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about what is a housing production plan, who qualifies, defining affordability, a little bit about the demographics of Easton, and how we go from there, formula for success, and who we are working with you on this project. What is a housing production plan? It's a proactive strategy to meet the housing needs of the community. What we do is an assessment of housing needs. We create goals to meet those needs and work with you to develop strategies towards achieving those goals. What is housing production? State regulations under Chapter 40B offer communities greater local control over affordable housing development. The first step is getting housing plan approval from the state. The plan must include affordable housing production goals. For each 1 year or 2 year goal met, the town can apply for and receive state certification with a 1 or 2 year period during which developer-initiated 40B projects can be denied by the ZBA without the developer's ability to appeal. What a housing production plan can do for you. Well, it opens you up to housing choice capital grant opportunities. This year, fiscal year 21, there were $4 million in funding for housing programs available through this program. There's also the MassWorks and Mass DOT grant opportunities, money for public infrastructure investments that spur economic and housing development. There's opportunities for economic growth. Commonwealth housing shortages limit economic growth potential. And a proactive housing strategy, a proactive approach in creating diverse housing to meet Easton's affordability goals. The benefits of having a plan are greater local control over housing development. It explains the housing market, the conditions, and affordability gaps. It provides information on priority housing needs and supports future planning and grant-making efforts. It assists in making funding decisions, capital improvement programs. What is affordable housing? Federal definition, paying no more than 30% of housing, 30% of income on housing, The 40B definition includes age restrictions, affirmatively marketed, available to households earning at or below 80% of area mean income. Chapter 40B, Mass Housing Law, was passed in the 1960s. It's commonly referred to as the Anti-Snob Zoning Act. It requires a minimum of 25% of the units set aside for low or moderate income households, and it overrides local zoning if the municipality is below 10% SHI. In our region, we've worked really hard to get everyone's housing production plans up to date over the last 5 or 6 years. And this is the list of communities in our region that have successfully updated their plans, or they might be currently updating them now, or they have an updated plan that they haven't adopted yet. And how are housing production plans approved? Well, first, after you draft them, they're submitted to the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen, and they review them and then vote to adopt them. At that point, it's submitted to the Mass Department of Housing and Community Development, where they review the plan and then issue an approval and send it back to the town for implementation, evaluation, and then adaptation. If a community has a DHCD approved plan and is granted a DHCD certification of compliance, it did so by making progress on the plan. A decision by the ZBA to deny a comprehensive permit application will be deemed consistent with local needs under the Mass General Law, Chapter 40B. Who qualifies for these properties? Individuals and households earning 80% or less of the average median income. Teachers, firefighters, police officers, graduates, empty nesters, senior citizens, basically your neighbors, your students, your relatives. Defining affordability. A household pays greater than 30% of its income on housing. It is considered to be cost burdened. A household that pays greater than 50% of its income on housing is considered to be severely cost burdened. Affordable housing is defined almost as extremely low income households earning at or below 30% of AMI. Very low income households earning between 31% and 50% of AMI, and low income households earning between 51% and 80% of AMI. Easton's demographics. These are just scratching some of the surface of the census data. Most of these numbers are 2019, except for the race and population, which is just the 2020, the new census, but that's very few statistics are 2020 at this point. There are 8,477 households in Easton. And of those households, 35.7% have children under the age of 18. And those households, 63.7% are headed by females. And 39.2% of the households have members age 60 or over. In Easton, average household sizes are decreasing, which is normal everywhere in our region. In 2000, the average household size was 2.74 individuals. And today it's down to 2.52. We're having fewer children. This is the age, oh, I'm sorry, this says Avon on it. It should say Easton. And it should say 2019. Of course, it's when you do the slides live that you notice the misspellings. But the statistics are correct for this slide. These are the demographics for age distribution in Easton for the years 2000, 2010, and 2019. You'll see here that the age groups 5 to 9 and under 5 have reduced, and these age groups over 60 have increased significantly, 92% from 60 to 64. This is basically telling me that your childbearing years, these groups of people, they're not here. And why are the population decreasing? Is it because of the housing stock is too high? Or are there other instances why their population is declining? And Easton is a very educated community with a population 25 and over has mostly a degree. You have very few with less than a high school education. And your ethnicity is mostly white with a little bit of Black and African American and Asian. The characteristics of the disabled community. Of your disabled community, we broke it down by age. So you'll see the highest percentage are 75 years and over and 35 to 64. But you'll see this is only 6%. Even though it's a high number, it's only 6% of the total age cohort for that group. whereas for the 75 years and over, that's 42.6% of those in that age group claiming a disability. And that disability is mostly an ambulatory situation, followed by a hearing disability, and then an independent living difficulty. The median household income in Easton is incredibly $112,268. And that has increased significantly since 1999, 62.4%. 8% of the households in Easton have an income of less than $50,000, and 4.2% of the households have an annual income of less than $25,000. $1 in 1999 has the same buying power as $1.54 in 2019. The household income distribution, I broke it down in this chart so you can see exactly where the numbers fall. It's incredible that since 1999, the number of households earning greater than $200,000 has increased by 5,000%. And the number of households earning greater than $150,000 has increased by more than 2,000%. And over 55% of the households in Easton earn an income of greater than $100,000. And 69% have an annual income of less than $75,000. And this is a chart just to break it out for you even further. And how are you getting all this money? You're all working as essential workers, basically. That's why the traffic has not decreased at all going into the office every day. Most of the residents work in the professional, scientific, management, and administrative waste management services, as well as education, healthcare, and social assistance. The unemployment rate is 4.5%. And housing, excuse me, with 834 units on the SHI, Easton has a subsidized housing inventory of 10.3%, so you're doing really well. And this is the breakdown of your current occupied housing by age group. You can see it broke down by owner-occupied housing and renter-occupied housing. We have 8,708, I don't know, I'm not sure about this number here. I'd have to, this is suspect to me. Please disregard that. 56.9% of your occupied housing units were constructed prior to 1979. Your median sale price increased 29% between 2020 to 2021, and that's at $599,999. 77.2% of your owner-occupied and 22.7% is renter-occupied. 65.3% of your housing units are single-family detached structures. This is a summary of your housing needs. Rental housing is the most significant need. Target the needs of the most vulnerable residents. Provide opportunities for overhoused seniors by providing more appropriately sized units for increasing number of small households for empty nesters. Housing diversity. Provide more housing options for local workers priced out of the housing market, people who grew up in Easton and want to raise their families locally. Matching people with opportunity. Leverage state and federal resources directed to retail, rental housing, family housing, and affordable housing and mixed income housing within the same site. The rental needs of senior citizens. Rental housing needs of seniors are growing as the population continue to become a larger segment of Easton's population, and cost burdens remain significant. 92% of your population growth in the 60 to 64 age cohort really supports this. Easton's formula for success, determining affordable housing goals and strategies. And this is how we move forward with the project. We have to determine what is affordable housing in Easton. How much do we have and how much is required? What are the demographic trends that suggest future need? And what actions can Easton do to help meet that need? We start by developing goals. I took these goals from your existing master plan as a basis to start conversation. We'll use these to determine have your needs been met? If not, how can we change your goals to meet your future needs for your community? Are these still significant? Do you want to tweak them? And how do we do that? We develop strategies to address the housing needs designed to increase and improve housing opportunities for all income groups. A way of describing how you are going to get things done, less specific than an action plan. Instead, it tries to broadly answer the question, how do we get there from here? Some strategies that we're going to look at include senior housing, overlay districts, affordable housing for persons aged 55 and over. There's R25 and 40R zoning opportunities that include inclusionary zoning with 25% affordable and transit-oriented zoning districts, smaller housing units, research methods to incentivize smaller units. Other strategies include looking at town-owned land and screen those parcels for affordable housing opportunities. Perhaps some adaptive reuse property previously developed or town-owned site for new community housing, and look at housing overlays to explore adoption to allow affordable senior housing. Multi-generational housing to provide a range of multi-generational community housing choices. We want to distribute and diversify the housing, spread it affordable housing across geographically throughout Easton and not locate it in just spots where, it's just not appropriate. And private property, review private parcels for affordable housing development when opportunity arises. And this is your Old Colony Planning Council team. We're led by Mary Waldron. She's the executive director. She's been there now 2 years and leading the helm very well. And I'm Laurie Muncy. I'm the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. And Joanne Zigman is the Senior Economic Development Environmental Planner. Joanne right now is working on your community survey. She is a public survey expert, so I'm giving her a little more time to get it just right before we send it out to you for review. So I hope to have that in the next couple of days. We've just been working on a lot of projects and we're getting it done. And this is our contact information. I just have my email address here. This is the office phone, but really we're all working remotely. So the best way to contact me is through email. I'm going to stop sharing and answer any questions you might have.
Lori, thank you for that. I'm Wayne Beitler, Community Planner for the Town of Easton, and I'm staff support for the Affordable Housing Trust. A specific question I have is this community survey. It seems like that might be an incredibly useful tool to get frank and detailed feedback of needs from folks in Easton. So how can that be made available? Is that something that we would email to everybody, put on the town website? Is there a code that folks would use to get to your website? I mean, like sort of what's the mechanics for making sure people are aware of it and can participate?
It's a SurveyMonkey survey. So we'll have a QR code and we'll have that on our website. You can have it on your website. It'll be on all our public outreach materials. We do a MailChimp. We can do, a mass mailing through that. We advertise it on our end through our delegates, and we put it in our newsletter. But I'd do a flyer and have you guys distribute a flyer to the library, the senior center, anywhere. I like to see the kids have opportunities, but sometimes getting materials through the schools can be awkward. So if you have that opportunity, great. If not, then, it's not a big deal. But I do like to see a little bit of their ideas, because they're going to be the people who are going to be using and enjoying these properties, and how they feel about their community. It starts to get them involved in civics and municipal service. But like I said, sometimes that can be awkward with community. So it just depends on Easton's particular. Oftentimes we do them around town meetings. Unfortunately, this isn't happening in that season for you. But a lot of times surveys are distributed as right before you get your warrant, not attached to it, obviously, but as it depends on who's distributing them. I've been very forward at town meetings, making sure that everyone who walked by me had a survey in their hand, and then as they left, I grabbed it out of their hands. But, again, unfortunately, I don't have that time this time to do that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dawnette McManus. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for presenting this topic, and it's near and dear to my heart because I, like a few others I know, I live in a 3-bedroom apartment, and I have 4 children. There's nothing, the housing stock that I look at in Easton, there are lots of 2 bedrooms and lots of units, but what happens to those who, I became a parent of 4 overnight. My sister passed away. So when I'm looking for housing, I can't find anything. And I work full time. I don't make much money, but what is available for me other than Avalon, where I live now? And what plans are, is this process going to look at, case by case? Is it going to, look at, different people's needs? Is there going to be a plan to work with landlords? I know there are big developers in Easton who have lots of properties. Is there a plan to perhaps work with landlords who have multiple units to, I don't know how the town would incentivize them, but maybe there's a program that can go over. I've been thinking, putting together numbers on my own, like a 10-year plan for people, and it works them through so that the landlords have equitable opportunity and the renter or the person who's, purchasing whatever has an opportunity. So what kinds of creative things are there for families that have more than 2.74 people?
We haven't written this plan yet. This is just the kickoff, but I would be thrilled if you would be part of our team to debate and develop these plans, because you have a lot of ideas that we could really work through. I have plans that I've written for other towns, and we could go over the strategies that, worked for their town. But really, each town is individual, and we really have to look at, what are the constraints in Easton, and what can we do to alleviate those constraints that aren't really, applicable to, Stoughton and Hanson and Halifax. So, I could send you a list of strategies just, that are out there, or I'd really like to just sit with you and work through this and develop them with you and have you part of our team.
Okay, and I actually, my office is right across the street from where your office is. I know you're working remotely, but I work at City Hall in the city of Brockton. So I'm right there. I work for procurement. So I would be happy to participate and maybe run some ideas, some different strategies, different ways of thinking, so that not only our seniors are taken care of. I've been even looking at tiny homes. Have you thought about like tiny homes for people who, the upkeep is very, very light and different things of that nature? So I'm very interested, and I hope to find out more.
As an aside, I have a tiny home for my dad, and he lives in it on my property because he's 77 and he's a widower, And it's a marvelous situation. I think he has maybe 800 square feet, but that's all he needs because he's got us here and we're probably 40 feet apart. But it's just that balance of separation that makes it work, and people forget that the seniors need to be with us and not housed in some facility far away from us. And those aren't used often enough especially for people in my situation. Oh yeah, we have a lot in common. We should sit down and compare some notes.
And one more thing that I was thinking about also, is there a way also to work with Easton Housing so that they can offer programs that incentivize residents who are interested in not just becoming renters, but becoming homeowners, looking at other programs and other housing authorities and possibly bringing some of those programs here to Easton? I'm interested in that as well.
There's a couple of programs called the Soft Second program that I had familiarity with another family member who successfully went through that program. So basically what they do is you take some classes on financial management and buying a home, and they educate you basically on what you're getting into. And then they give you basically a soft second loan. I think it's like 7,000, 10,000. I think it can vary. And you use that as your down payment or part of your down payment when you qualify for your mortgage. And if you maintain your residence, there's a period of time, it might be 5 or 7 years, I'd have to research it again, then the loan turns into a grant and you don't have to pay it back. So it establishes that down payment that is such a barrier especially for single people trying to get into the housing market. They're too busy trying to pay the bills they have today. So, there are programs.
Easton is great in that respect because I had a detailed conversation with Wayne, and there are programs to help to encourage families to be in Easton. But what I'm more talking about is if you have a mobile a voucher of some sort, or if you have some kind of subsidy, which qualifies you for certain things, working specifically through the housing authority, whoever's managing that, to possibly create opportunities for people who are low income or modest incomes. I got a toddler here. Sorry.
No problem. It sounds like something we'll work through, definitely. I can't commit to things like that without having conversations with the town, of course. But it's definitely a strategy that we need to develop because it's very useful.
And I would like to reinforce the importance of citizen advocacy for more multi-bedroom units. We need way more 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms. We need more multi-bedroom family-sized units. We absolutely do, and advocating around that would be very helpful.
Does anyone else have anything to say?
I've got a couple of questions. The first one is around benchmark analysis and what type of benchmarking you'll be including. You had a very comprehensive list of communities you've worked with. So just be curious to hear the process of how you identify comparable communities for benchmarking and what type of metrics that you explore in that analysis.
Mostly we use our region. We have 17 cities and towns that we have in our region. But I had to do another housing project that explored communities outside their region because they wanted some other communities, let's just say that. So we did 10 additional towns and explored all the data from those towns and then compared it to them. But I wouldn't be doing that for this project. I would stick to the 17 towns that we have in our region. But that's also cross-county.
Okay. The second question I have is around zoning. You started to raise the awesome point about tiny homes and kind of just thinking outside of the box creatively, but a lot of times those types of creative options are inhibited by zoning challenges. How much will you be looking into zoning as a constraint and making recommendations around what we could explore as a community in terms of changes there to allow for things that might increase our ability to be more affordable and equitable?
I do a high-end look at your zoning. I wouldn't go in and do a comprehensive analysis and, make a real big change. But part of the strategy will be like one of the things that we've been throwing around the office is these parcels. Sometimes you'll have these town-owned parcels that are small, maybe 5 acres. That you can use for a village, and under certain very structured parameters, create a series of tiny homes that they face a common area, common walkway with little porches. So I'd have to show you a visual of what they look like. It's hard for me to describe them off the cuff, but basically a village of tiny homes on little tiny parcels that really wouldn't be developed for other things. But like I said, you have to be very structured in how you set them up. But that's one example. Accessory dwelling units by right, for sure. And I just lost my train of thought too. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Inclusionary zoning. I'm sorry. That was the other thing that I really wanted to stress. Every new subdivision should be, especially if you've given them some type of density bonus on an otherwise overlay zoning situation, should have an affordability requirement. You're already, giving them a benefit, and it should be nice to get the benefit back. So those kind of things right off the top of my head, you should really look at in zoning. And there's some incentives from the state to do those types of things financially or grant wise.
Awesome, thank you. The last question, it's more of a point, but so I'm on the select board, and in a lot of our boards and different roles across town, we hear and see a lot of, just straight up false narratives around affordability and affordable housing. And it's really disappointing because a lot of times you dig into the data, it's not the truth at all. And so anything that can be done to give us the tools and resources to help make sure we can advocate for and clearly communicate, dispelling those rumors and setting the record straight as much as we can in our various roles would be really huge, because it's just such a frustrating element, and it's inevitable, but it's really, it creates an uphill battle, and it hurts our community.
It's basically a PR campaign. You're selling, a new concept, a new idea, a new way of looking at housing and housing need. It's just incredible to me sometimes when I look at the data. It's astonishing how much, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I always say, how do these kids afford these rents, and the houses? How do they expect to graduate from college and pay off their student loans and buy a house in the town that they grew up in and grow their own roots? And people think about affordable housing as some unknown stranger from another place that, is scary for some reason. And it's really, it's your own community. It's your own family members that need places for whatever reason. They're young, they're old, they're middle, they're starting careers, they're ending careers. And, it's everybody.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Like I said, this is just the kickoff. We'll be having more meetings as we go forward. What we're going to do next, I'll be doing a deeper dive into the demographics and all of the analysis, and then we'll meet again when I have all of those numbers firmed up, and we'll start to talk about goals and strategies.
And I think on the town side, our flow, I believe, is, we're having this public meeting, we have, then we present the draft housing production plan to the planning board for their recommendation. Then, and that's probably going to be in November, and then in December to the select board for their recommendation, so that we can submit it to the state for their approval in January, I believe is our rough timeline. And and of course the planning board and select board meetings are public, in addition to any other meetings that would be held as part of this. And the Affordable Housing Trust, of course, is meeting once a month for the next few months, and those are public meetings as well.
Yeah, we'll probably tag on to the next one of those, depending on when the date falls, and start the heavy lift.
Hey, this is Tim Vamosi from the Finance Committee. Are you guys, as we move forward with this, are we going to identify the grant opportunities that are there and kind of do an analysis of, I don't want to say leaving money on the table per se, but as to how much grants we can capture to help offset some of the other costs in town related to housing?
Well, I can give you a list of the grant opportunities, but, I can tell you like there's $10 million available in this program. But to break them down into how much you would receive and if how to spend that might be a little much at this end. But
No,
we
understood, but
definitely-
just identifying the opportunities out there so that we can start advocating for them early in the process and not on our heels on the labor end of it.
Oh, definitely. There'll be a whole section on that.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation tonight.
Oh, no problem. I'll send it to Wayne, so you guys can have it for your notes if you need it, or if you want to put it on your website for future. And then once Joanne gets that survey done, the poor girl's been working day and night. And I had Elijah write it first, but she's the survey person. And then when she saw it, she wanted to rewrite it because that's Joanne. So I'm sure she'll get it to me really quick. And as soon as I get it, I'll get it out to you for review. And then once you guys have approved it, we'll get it live.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem. Well, it was great meeting everyone tonight. It was a good meeting, and I look forward to seeing you again, especially you, Donette. We'll have lunch. You're right across the street. Okay, well, have a nice evening.
Thank you. Really appreciate the time. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night,
No
everyone.
problem.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Wayne.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. It's so important for folks to get involved. Thank you.